Hi, my name is Lauren, and this is my first attempt at a YouTube video. I have been kind of wanting to try out YouTube and specifically the book community for a few years now, but I've never really found the right moment. I had thought for a very long time that the Booktubeathon, or the Reading Rush as it's now called, would always be kind of like a great jumping off point to try out this community as I wait for my ice maker to stop doing that. But every single time the readathon or the Booktubeathon rolled around, I was in the middle of moving, and it didn't really work to try to do something like this while I'm trying to move all of my belongings. This is the first time that I've been in a situation where our lease was up and we decided to renew instead of just moving on to somewhere else. So this is great. I figured if not now, when? So this is me trying it. And I know that there's like an intense glare coming off my glasses, but I cannot see without them, so I'm just gonna go for it. Just try not to let it distract you. Try not to let that distract you, or my atrocious nails. I don't often do them, so. And I don't know if you can hear my upstairs neighbor, but I live in an apartment building, so that's just gonna come with the territory. All right, so I was thinking that it would be a good idea to start, like I said, with the Reading Rush as being the introduction into BookTube, but after filming a few versions of a TBR video for the Reading Rush, I kind of realized that I was inserting a lot of personal things that would have come up with the Booktube Newbie Tag, and I should just start with that instead. So that is what I'm going to be doing today, and I'm just going to be referencing my little notebook here for the questions. So it's low budget here, but we're going to do our best, right? Positive thoughts. So the first question is, why did you start this channel? So I started for the very cliche reason of I would like to make some friends. I have friends, but I think that I have far more time on my hands than they do, so I end up reading a lot more. Also, we enjoy reading different things, so it'd be nice to kind of start up some conversations and dialogues with people who like similar books to me, and also kind of just like talking about books in general, because I find myself just word vomiting at my therapist instead of just, my friends. So maybe that can change. And the second question is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? So I'm not going to pretend like I'm going to be this new crazy voice that has all this stuff that no one else has, because there are so many people on BookTube now that I feel like it truly is just adding to the noise. But I'm doing this more for myself than anybody else, so I'm okay with just adding to the noise. For me, I think the unique fun things I can add is that this channel, while its primary focus will be books, is also just going to be about my life in general. And I have a lot of varied interests, so I think it'll be fun to kind of bring those into the spotlight too. Like, for instance, I'm very into Dungeons and Dragons. I play multiple games a week. I'm also working on creating my own campaign, so that could be fun to talk about. When I have the chance and the space, I like to paint minis, so like these. So that could be a fun thing to talk about. I also very much enjoy the whole process of getting tattooed, so I'll probably talk about that a bit. Like, when I get my next tattoo, I'll probably be documenting that as best I can, just to kind of switch up the content. Like I said, the primary focus will be books, but I like to add my own little flavor into things, and that will be fun. And also, if you like cats, I have two, and they'll most definitely be making tons of appearances because they like to be involved. So the next question, what are you most excited for about this new channel? I'm mostly just excited to try something new. I have a chronic illness that has prevented me from trying out a lot of just, fun stuff, but mainly just time intensive, energy zapping kind of hobbies that I've been too intimidated to try in the past because it seemed like such a huge undertaking for someone like myself that I was spending most of my time in bed. And it's only been in the last year or so that I've really kind of started to improve physically and mentally, for that matter. It just kind of goes hand in hand. And so I feel like this is the time to try it, and I'm excited just to see if this is something that is going to be a really enjoyable experience for me, or if it's going to be something that I look back on with a bit of a cringe. But either way, I think it will be fun to see my thoughts about books, like how I felt now, because I've kept journals and I have a Goodreads and everything like that, but I find that I tend to forget most things about a book after I've read like 6 books from that one. So like 6 books later, I really can't tell you much about the book I read other than I liked it, or this is where it takes place. So I think it'll be fun to have a more reliable log of my more specific thoughts about books. So even if this is just for me and just ends up being like a series of privated videos, I think that it will be a fun time. All right, so the next question is, why do you love reading? I'm going to use this kind of as a jumping off point as well to talk about the things going on in the world right now. Because for me, the reason I love reading is it's always been a positive escape into a world that's not my own. I tend to read a lot of fantasy. I don't read a lot of contemporary books. I've started reading them more lately, but as you can see behind me, I will figure this out. As you can see behind me, it's mostly, this whole shelf is Pratchett, the shelf below is all Tolkien. I tend to lean more towards the fantastical because I like the escapism of it. And right now, with the pandemic, it has been a great distraction. And with the protests that have been going on and the Black Lives Matter movement, I have really just been consuming so much content and media and videos of these truly horrific things going on and feeling outraged and frustrated and just generally powerless. And I know that for me, it is a privilege to be able to pick up a book and not think about it for half an hour, because I am a white woman who is just, these things are happening around me, not to me. So I think this is a good time to recognize that as white people, we do have the privilege of kind of turning our brains off to some things, but right now it's really important to do that as little as possible and to really spend as much energy as possible amplifying Black voices and helping where we can. For me, I couldn't go out to protest because I think with my chronic illness, I would just end up becoming a burden that someone else would have to deal with, and I don't feel right about that. So instead, I've just been doing my part with donating what money I do have and trying to raise awareness. I know even with my own family, it has been a struggle just to get any sort of point across. I am from a very southern, very conservative family, and they like to put on blinders. And I've been trying to work hard to the people closest in my life, just tearing those blinders right off and making them face the realities of the world that we live in. And the fact that none of this is new. All of this has been happening for hundreds of years, but we currently live in a environment of social media and where everything is captured on film. And so now you can't look away. You can't ignore it. And I'm grateful that it looks like there may be some change coming through the pipelines here. And our country desperately needs it. The world desperately needs it. So that is my PSA for the time being, and I'm sure it's not enough, but I'm just trying to do what I can, and if I need to do better, if there's a way I can do better, please let me know in the comments, because I'm always willing to learn, and I've been trying to educate myself, but we all fuck up sometimes, so just be kind, I guess. Now that has been said, I guess I'll continue on to the next question. So that's going to be a fun transition, which is, what book or series got you into reading? So if I look back at the earliest days of my reading, the books that got me most into it actually are right behind me, because I like to hold on to my most special like childhood favorites, and that is I really read a lot of Anne of Green Gables. I loved A Little Princess, but I also, my all-time favorite book, and the one that I credit the most to my love of reading, is The Phantom Tollbooth. This is the 50th anniversary edition. My wife got this for me on one of our anniversaries, I believe, and it is one of my favorite possessions for that reason, and because I finally have like a really beautiful copy of this book that I love so much. I really think that this book made me fall in love just with words in general, which in turn helped my love of reading. And as far as other things that really influenced my current reading, I loved The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I don't reread that one as much anymore, but it kind of was the great jumping off point into just fantasy in general. I absolutely love Lord of the Rings. I have like an unhealthy amount of editions of Lord of the Rings, and that's only going to keep growing. I haven't been buying new ones lately because, you know, financial reasons, but it really just paved the way to Lord of the Rings, and then from Lord of the Rings everywhere else. I also really love historical fiction, which I attribute mostly to this book right here, which is Queen's Own Fool, and it is a story about Mary, Queen of Scots, as you can see there. I've had this edition for so many years that it is barely hanging on. You can see I taped up a bunch, and it's really being held together just like on a prayer, and it's not even fully together. I'm not sure the best way to repair it, but it's one of my all-time favorite books. I don't necessarily know if I can look at it critically anymore in terms of whether or not it's a capital G good book, but I just know that it means a lot to me, and it really opened up the world of historical fiction, which to me is such kind of a luscious type of genre and always feels nice to dive into. The next question is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I don't have a ton of questions in terms of my favorite booktubers, because they seem to do Q&As enough where I kind of get to know them and don't feel like I need to ask a ton of additional questions. But I guess with Read with Cindy, how do you get the motivation to actually sit down and start writing a book? Where do you start? Because it's something I've also been wanting to try to do, and I've been passionate about writing for a while, but it's not something that, like, it's just getting over that initial hurdle. I think is amazing that she's able to do that, and anyone else who writes who's able to actually put the words down. I'm very impressed by, and I admire her a lot. I think that's all that's coming to mind right now. So yeah, and also, Read with Cindy, will you be my friend? What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? So for me, I think it's definitely just fear. I don't like putting myself out in front of people, in front of like the public eye, and I am eager to try to push past that, which just making this video alone already feels like a victory. I also have worried for most of my life of how my friends and family thought of me and my endeavors and my hobbies and everything like that. So being able to kind of just do it regardless of how I feel like people in my actual life may react feels very difficult but exciting. And that was another thing that just the last few years have really been something I've been pushing to do. And so yeah, that is the biggest challenge. That and just like editing skills, because I've never done anything like this before. So I feel like this is going to be a lot ramblier than I hope videos in the future will be. And I hope that I can make them a bit snappier, but I feel like that's an acquired skill and something I'm just gonna have to practice. But that is the Booktube Newbie Tag. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll stick around for another video. I think my next video is going to be the Reading Rush TBR. I already have it kind of planned out. I'm really excited to participate this year. So that should be a good time. So stick around if you're interested in any of the things that I've talked about or just interested in me in general. And thank you so much for watching.